Okay, everybody. We only have 1 hour because there's another conference after this. Um, my talk today will be about app submission. Um, how to do it using the Cordova/PhoneGap CLI. This will be mainly a lecture style. You interrupt me with questions whenever you want. Um, I'll probably stop at the 50-minute mark, and we can continue with discussion. The talk is divided into three different sections. Firstly, how to set up developer accounts for Windows, iOS, and Android. Second, how to package your apps for the three different app stores. Particularly how to do it using the CLI, how it's gonna help you, because most of you probably would know how to package it using the IDEs. I'll demonstrate how to do it using the CLI. And thirdly, how to submit your app for all the three different app stores. So let's go to how to set up developer accounts. This talk mainly will be about the Apple App Store because it's the most complex of all three. Google Play Store and Windows Phone Store are pretty straightforward. So let's start with the Apple App Store. You need to pay Apple $99 a year to have an iOS developer account, which is not true with the latest Xcode 7. You can deploy to your app using an Apple ID only, but obviously you can't submit to the App Store. The App Store, you need a full account, personal account at least, $99 a year. The unique thing about the Apple App Store is it has support for organizations, which Google Play and Windows Phone Store doesn't really, even though you can pay for a company account. So signing up for an Apple ID is pretty straightforward. I won't show that here, but once you log in, you'll see all the different sections, which I'll go through. Okay. So for a Google Play account, it's significantly cheaper, $25. You have to set up two different accounts. One is a publisher account, which is equivalent to the iOS developer account, and second is a Google Wallet merchant account. Unlike the App Store, there's no management of developers, no organization account. And there's one funny thing about Google Play. For example, if you're in a big corporation, someone needs to be in charge of the account, and if you have a two-factor authentication using your phone, you'll have to phone that person to get the PIN code every time you want to submit. So at Adobe, that's what we have to do, because someone holds the account. When you want to submit your app, we'll have to phone him, and on the phone he'll give us the PIN. So that's one thing that's might trip you up. For Windows Phone, it's even more cheaper than the Google Play account, but for a company it's $99 like Apple, but it's the same way where in Google Play you'll still need someone to maintain that account. So at Adobe, we maintain the remote desktop to Windows VM, where where everybody logs in and submits apps because Microsoft doesn't allow multiple logins at the same time. So yeah, just all the different quirks with the different app stores. But you'll see, Apple has the most complex mechanisms. Let's move on to the packaging, which is the most complex part of this whole process. Let's take a look at the Configxml, which is part of a Cordova app. So, for example, in the PhoneGap developer app, you'll see the config.xml. You can see that? Yeah. So the widget ID attribute, the attribute right there is it will be translated into the different platform IDs. This will be directly equivalent to the build ID of the iOS app, and the version will be exactly the version in Xcode or in your Google app. So as you can see here, there's various descriptions of what the widget tag does. Let's go to if you have any confusion about that, let's go to the Cordova docs. If you haven't gone to the new Cordova website, I encourage you to go there. It has been revamped, and it's really, really nice. So if you, the search especially, let's see, can't click on it. Give me a second. My keyboard is not responding. Fortunately, I can't type because my keyboard's not responding. Just weird. Okay, let's just move on. I'm not sure why it's not responding. It's first time ever. Demos, who knows. Okay. Might be a problem if I can't type, but I can click. So the first thing for packaging your app, you have to, I don't know why this happened. Let's see. Just give me a second. Oh, there you go. Now it's working. Let's go back to the Cordova website. So the doc site is really, really good. Now, for example, I type widget. Actually, config.xml. Let's go to config.xml reference, which it should go to. Okay. Let's move on here. Let's go back. I think a Chrome extension is screwing up my. There you go. So you register an app ID in your developer portal, which I have here. You log into, you can see the URL. developer.apple.com/account. Pay your $99, and on the overview tab, you'll see certificates, identifiers, and profiles. Click on that, and go directly to app IDs. So that will, for example, here I have the PhoneGap. I just made a PhoneGap app, com.phonegap.myapp, which corresponds to the ID attribute in your widget tag. Set it up. Sorry. And so you register your app ID, which is equivalent to your widget ID. Select all the app services that you want. This next part is the most complex part of everything. Set up your certificates and provisioning profile. There's two types of certificates, the development certificate and distribution certificate. Development certificate, as it says, is just for example, your team or just your personal device. That you can register in your program. Distribution certificate, there's two types of distribution, ad hoc distribution and Appstore distribution. There's a subtle difference there. For example, if you have a development certificate and you know all the device IDs that you need, you can distribute apps to your team without much trouble. But if you want to distribute something as a beta program, for example, in test flight or hockey app, you should do an ad hoc packaging. So that way you don't really need to know all the device IDs. When you upload it to hockey app, they will manage all the device IDs. It's mainly for unknown devices. So in the old days, to create signing identity and certificates, you had to use the portal, and you had to use Keychain Access and do a lot of configuration and a lot of headache. Now, recently, I think for Xcode, one of the recent Xcodes in Xcode preferences, Apple has tried to make it easier. For example, you launch Xcode, go to your preferences, accounts. I have two teams here. One's Night-Owie Software, which PhoneGap was before we joined Adobe, and I have my personal team. So, for example, I go to my personal team. If you had nothing in here, you just click on the plus button, add your Apple ID, and it will populate it with all your teams. So let me go to my personal team. I'll go view details and wait for it to load. You'll see that there's all these signing identities that you can create. And for example, here I've already got distribution certificate created, so it's already on my system. I'll show you. If you launch Keychain Access, you'll see I have a distribution certificate already. But if you don't, you just run through the wizard. It should download and automatically create it for you. Go back to Keychain Access. You'll see right there, it automatically created a private key and downloaded the certificate for you. In the old days, you would have to go, you still can do it, but you would have to go to Preferences, no, not Preferences, Keychain Access, Certificate Assistant, request a certificate from my certificate authority, save it to disk, I saved it to disk, and in the App Store, you would upload it here. So as you can see, the you would take more than 5 steps just to create a certificate, versus just one click from the preferences. So it does the same thing, except it's less confusing if you just go through Xcode preferences. Let's go back to the presentation here. Okay, so once you create your certificate, signing identity downloads a certificate, downloads the you create the private key locally, and also create the provisioning profile, which I did not show right here. Okay, we'll come back to the provisioning profile right here. So I already showed you the Keychain Access, where it shows the distribution certificate which you need for the App Store. What's important here is a lot of people get tripped up with the certificates. If you go back to Keychain Access, you'll see each certificate has this disclosure triangle. Some people install certificates, and for example, I'll do it right here. I'll just delete my private key. Sometimes, no, it didn't show it this time, but sometimes you get a certificate without the disclosure triangle. That means you don't have a private key, and it's kind of useless. You can't sign anything without a private key. So if you have any issues with packaging your app, make sure you go to Keychain Access and check out whether your certificate has a private key. That's frequently a lot of what a lot of people trip up with. So just make sure that you have that private key. The next step is creating the provisioning profile. As you can see, it's developing for iOS. It's just way complex compared to Android and Windows, which I will show later. And let's go through the steps of how to create a provisioning profile. Unfortunately, you can't do it through Xcode because it will just download the provisioning profile, but it won't create one for you. So unfortunately, just is still a manual step. So if you go back to your developer portal, go to provisioning profiles, distribution, click on the plus button, and go to the distribution section and Appstore. And the next part is where you select your app ID. So here, I'll select my app, com.phonegap.myapp. Select the certificate that you already created before, the distribution certificate. And you can name the profile anything, say PhoneGap. So next thing, it will download the mobile provision, and if you just double click on it, it will install it in your system. This is important for the CLI later, so make sure you double click on it to install it. So now we have created the store provisioning profile. You could either download the certificate or just click download all in the Xcode preferences/account. Also, okay. So this is the part where the Cordova/PhoneGap CLI will immensely help your you to package all the apps for the Windows, Android, and iOS all at the same time. This is through the --build config flag, which is fairly new. So you basically specify a JSON file. You can name it anything. We just pass it to the --build config flag when you do a build. So over here, you'll see we do a PhoneGap, or you can substitute PhoneGap for Cordova in all these examples. So PhoneGap build iOS --build config, and the path to your build config JSON. Obviously, you can name it anything. So here's what it looks like. So the key will be the platform that you're building for, and that key takes another object with two keys, for the different configurations for your debug or release configurations. So there's a typo here, could sign identity, but so over here you would specify your code sign identity and your provisioning profile. So what does the code sign identity refer to? So we'll go back to Keychain Access. If I can load it. Keychain Access. So you can specify something specific like iPhone developer code :SHAZRON ABDULLAH. But generally you won't need to, because Xcode itself will, if you just put iPhone developer, Xcode itself will try to match the right certificate based on the package ID. So if we go back to the JSON, generally you don't need to specify anything specific. If you just put iPhone developer or iPhone distribution, it should match it automatically. So the other complex part of this is the provisioning profile. In here, you can't specify an absolute path. You just have to specify the provisioning profile ID. So what does that look like? It is if you go back to your Xcode preferences, select the account tab, select your team, go to, let me download my provisioning profile. Should be here. Oh, wrong team, sorry. So hang on. Okay, it should show up, but it's not showing up. So I'll go to the Cordova docs right now, which will show you exactly what it. If you type in signing, you'll see there's a platform guide for Windows, Android, and iOS, which is exactly what I'm showing you right now. So usually when you download provisioning profiles, it should show here. I'm not sure why it's not showing, but okay. Oh, okay. No, Well, I already downloaded it, so I'm not sure why it's not downloading. But I still can go on. I'll show you exactly what it means. You would normally in the bottom here you'll see the provisioning profile. You right click on it, context click on it. You'll say Show in Finder, and Show in Finder you'll see the file name. The file name will be like a GUID. It's a long string that you will need to put in the JSON. But I'll show it to you in the docs itself here, which will have an example. It says right here in the provisioning profile, it installs it in this folder. So let me just go there for a second. So I'll just open the whole thing. So probably can't tell which provisioning profile with which app. That's why we go to the Xcode preferences and right click on the exact one. So but here I know that I just created it, right? So I'll just sort by date modified, and I'll see that thing that I just highlighted. That's the provisioning profile value that I put in the JSON. Unfortunately, this is the way you have to do it. There's no automated way. So I won't open it, but that's what I would put in based on my app ID. So let's go back to the demo here. Okay, this is what it's supposed to look like. The bottom part, it will show all your provisioning profiles, and you can download it, and then you can right click on it, like this example right here. Click on your app name that you assigned just now, and right click on it, Show in Finder, and you'll see that file in your Finder, and just grab the file name without the file extension, and you would put that in your JSON. If you can find JSON, there you go. So you would do that for your for your different build configurations. So once you have the provisioning profile, you have the certificate, and you have this JSON file, we would reuse this JSON file for all the different platforms. Here it's just showing iOS. I'll show you the Android version and the Windows version. Building your app with Xcode is pretty straightforward. You would just manipulate all the different build settings in Xcode itself. If you're building a Cordova app, your Xcode project is in the platform / iOS folder. I won't go through much with the IDE settings, because those are usually covered by the different platforms docs. So, okay, now iOS took up most of the time. So I'll show you how to do the Android app, which is slightly easier. You just run a if you need a Keystore for each app that you need to submit. So you would run the KeyTool app. This is an example of how to run it. This is all covered in Android docs also. So the important thing about the Keystore app is make sure you save it somewhere. So if you lose it and you upload it the first time and then you lose it, you can never update your app. So you have to deploy it using a new name, and then you'll lose all the users that downloaded your app before, because they can never get that update. So we've had situations where, for example, using PhoneGap build, I'll just try to plug PhoneGap build here for a second. So PhoneGap build does all these things for you automatically. You just send us your Keystore, your iOS certificates, provisioning profiles, and we'll just build it for you, so you won't need a Mac. If you have Creative Cloud, you get this for free. Right, so you generated a Keystore for your Android app, and once you have that, you run jar signer. You can obviously automate this with your continuous integration servers, Jenkins or. Okay, so this is a section where it's the most interesting for this talk, because you want the CLI to handle it for you, right? So similar to iOS, PhoneGap or Cordova build Android and then pass the build config. You can pass it to the same JSON file, but in that JSON file, now you have an Android key for the platform, and the two different configurations, and obviously, and the different values for where you a path to your Keystore password, etc. And when you run the command line, it should build the APK for you. Windows is even easier. This is for Windows 8, Phone 8. You just build it. I don't think Windows has a build config. You just build it from the command line, and it should build the APK automatically. It doesn't need any special It doesn't need any special settings. You just upload it to the Dev Center. So that is the end for the second section, which is packaging. We did the developer accounts. Second part was packaging. Now that you have your .ipa file for iOS, APK for Android, and the Windows Phone package. For each store, you usually will have to log into the dev portal and set it up first, and then upload your binary. For example, I'll go through iOS quickly. If you go back to your dev center, developer.apple.com/account. Basically you can just go to iTunes Connect directly, or just go to your dev center if you forget. There's an item in your dev center called iTunes Connect. It will just basically go to iTunes Connect, or you can go there directly. So all you need to go do is go to My App. No, that's not it. Hang on. Okay, there you go. So in iTunes Connect, there's a plus button in the toolbar. Let's create a new app. I've already created an app here, but as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. You choose your bundle ID, what primary language, your storekeeping unit, that basically is your identifier, your personal identifier for your product. I've already created an app. So let's see what information. It's all everything's almost filled out for you. So the important part here is you got to add a version or platform. So once you click that, I've already done it. for iOS. So this is the part where you need to spend a lot of time uploading all the different sizes of the phone. It all depends if you're deploying to iPad also. If you deploy to iPad also, you need to consider iPad Pro also. So once you've filled it up, then you can upload now. So let's go back here. So the config.xml and Cordova can help you with your screenshots. We have the icon tag and the splash tag, and you can specify all the different sizes here, and it will automatically put it in the right places for your different platforms. You can learn more in the Cordova docs. So the final thing, you already have your IPA. You've already set it up in the iTunes Connect, which I've already gone to. And then you would just grab your IPA. Your IPA in you can either send it using Xcode organizer or application loader. Because we're using Cordova, we didn't build it using Xcode. So you would launch application loader, and you would drag and drop your IPA. So your IPA is usually in. So I've got an app here. Can you see that? Yeah. Let me make it bigger. So in the Cordova app, you see the platforms directory. So let me go to platforms, iOS. It's in the build folder. When building for device, you'll see device folder. Right now, I only have an emulator build. And in here, you'll see your IPA. I didn't build for device right now, but you'll see your IPA file here, and you can grab that and just drag and drop to this location, and just send it to Apple. Okay. The application loader will send it to Apple, and will verify whether you you have all the right settings, and the error messages usually are pretty straightforward. If you have any errors, it's easy to fix. What can you expect after submitting? Usually the App Store will take up to a week, but recently they've really sped up everything. So usually in a couple of days now. Last week, 1 day. Wow. So I don't know what's happening, but Apple has really stepped up. For Android, it's even easier. Similar setup. Let me go to the Google Play Developer Console. Well, it's loading. So you can add new application. I've already created a test app. You manage your screenshots and everything else that you need here. And then select the APK tab, and just upload your APK, and that's it. Um, versus Apple, right? So super simple. Windows is even simpler. Like it says right here, there's no review process for Android usually, unless you've violated some for Cordova apps. Usually, if they'll scan if you have the latest Cordova, because some Cordova versions have security issues, so they might prevent you from uploading a certain Cordova app with a certain version, like a really old version. So Windows is pretty similar. Let's go to the Windows Dev Center. So, not sure. Okay, so as you can see, when you go to Dev Center, there's a, I don't know why I can't scroll up, but you can see the dashboard in the top right. So in the dashboard, you just create a new app. I won't create an app here, but we'll see. I don't think anyone will create that app, so it's pretty safe, I think. All right. So, so I won't go through everything in there, but it's pretty similar to all the other app stores. You create the icon, you upload the icons, screenshots, promotional images, update everything that you need here. So you would do the same thing, like I mentioned the icon and splash tags, they support Windows also. And unlike Android, they do have reviewers similar to Apple, but they're pretty quick also. That's basically it for um, for this talk. If you need to know more, everything that I've talked about here is in GitHub. Um, github.com/timkim, and under there you'll see PhoneGap Day workshop app submission. This is basically almost exactly the same talk that my colleague Tim Kim did for PhoneGap Day US. I'll open up for questions. Anybody have any questions? Oh, they do? Okay. Oh, they was it is that fairly new or quite recent? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was basing this off another presentation. So I'm mainly the iOS guy, so I might not have known that. Um, any other questions? What do you mean if you don't? Mhm. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, yeah. On Windows, really? Because you it's certificate signing request. You mean just you can just send it? Yeah. There's one other thing. Yeah, I was going to show you some other tools that you can use. Sauce Labs. I don't know. Most of you know about Sauce Labs. They're mobile uh, they test your app on real hardware remotely in the cloud, and also cross-browser testing. They've just released this tool called iSign. You can, it doesn't help you with building iOS apps, but you can code sign iOS applications on a Linux box, for example. Now, so I don't know what's the utility if you can't build it, but that might be something you can use also. There's also fast lane tools if you have problems with provisioning profiles, for example. They have a tool called Psy. Like everybody has problems with provisioning profiles. They have multiple tools. Snapshot for taking screenshots. Fastlane was just acquired by Twitter, so. Oh, there you go. Psy, deliver basically everything that you need to manage, for example, the developer portal from a command line. So you don't have to touch the developer portal. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you very much.